privilege of introducing my daughter, Delaney Mormon, and Kent, you can have credit for it too, and her friend Nathan Sneller. They have returned from their mission trip to Pune, India, and it's wonderful to have them here because that's the legacy, I think, one of the biggest ones of South Fork, is that we are a mission-focused church. And the support that they had from this small country church is immense, and it has implications across the world and all around the globe. So Delaney and Nathan, would you come now?
Yeah, I'm Delaney. This is Nathan. If you don't know me, I don't know who wouldn't, honestly. Was raised in this church, essentially, and y'all are family to me. So it is a privilege to know that you guys, sorry, there's Dave. Dave says so. It's a privilege to know that you guys supported me in this and have supported me pretty much being raised in the church. And can honestly say that I was fully funded by just this congregation alone, and then it overflowed into our team so that we were able to get fully funded. So
thank you.
So big thanks for that. It was a great trip, and it was, never faltered to know that the Lord would provide funding to get us over there, but especially with South Fork behind you, definitely is not gonna fail. So, next slide, I guess. Yeah, so we were in Pune, India. So it's about 3 hours east of Mumbai. We spent time in the city the entire time, besides a couple excursions out into a village or two. We were busy all the time. We had more opportunities than we had time for, so we had to say no to a couple things, which was really interesting, not thinking that we would have any opportunity, honestly, and it was just insane how much the Lord provided that for us. So I'm going to kind of talk about day-to-day things kind of, and then each ministry area that we spoke, we were in. So yeah, next slide. So Pune is extremely diverse in the ways of religion and language, and so there are a lot of religions. People would also kind of combine them. The biggest one that we saw was Hinduism. We saw a little bit of Islam. I think that was second.
Yeah.
Jainism, kind of saw a little bit of that with a couple of the families that we visited. Sikhs, I don't know. I don't think I really interacted with any Sikhs, but we were able to hear about them from our host missionary. He told us about a lot of different people that he had interacted with. Pretty much our host missionary was across the board with all the religions, yeah. But they were mostly focused on Hindus, and so we kind of were able to be more focused on Hinduism. But me and Anna, the girl that went on our trip with us, me and her were meeting with a Muslim woman for a while, so that was interesting to just kind of see the differences in all of the religions. But a big theme that we experienced was if they were Hindu, they were just going to add Jesus into the list of gods that they worshipped. And so we would be talking to people, sharing our testimony, sharing the gospel, and they would be like, oh yeah, I believe in Jesus. And I'm like, oh sweet, let's go. Me too. What's up? What do you know about him? And then they would be like, yeah, and I also believe in this God and this God and this God. I'm like, oh, so this is, yeah, okay. That's not what I was intending, but so I'll just tell you about it again. But so it was kind of hard to get around that in terms of sharing the gospel with people because they were just willing to add another God to their list. But we had to continuously drill in that there's only one true God, and he's not, third tier. He's the only one, and he's Lord of our lives. And so that was interesting to try to go around that. And then in terms of languages, pretty much everyone that we interacted with spoke English to a certain extent. So that was really great. We thought that we were going to need a translator day to day, but we only used translators when we went to the villages. And then whenever we were in the Hindu hotspot of town, there was a lot of people that just wouldn't speak English because they were very traditional. so they were not like educated to speak English. But Pune, India was colonized. I don't know what year. Do you remember what year?
1817.
Sweet. That's why I brought him. And so it was like the British came in, there's Pune cantonment area, and that's like where we were at. And so it was like all English speaking people. We have a really good friend that he is like the most like American British Indian man I've ever met in my life. Like he is like so, it's just so funny. But yeah, so it was really interesting to not have to use a translator at all. But and then Hindi was another language that was one of the top ones. And then Marathi was a language that we actually got to learn a little bit. We like started our language lessons like halfway through, so we didn't really get to use them very much. We just kind of were like, it was more of like a joke for us to be like, Malapani Day, which means get me water. So like we would just say stuff like that to each other. But whenever we like got in cars and stuff, the drivers loved it. Like they would go crazy whenever you would just speak one word. Because I think they were very honored that we wanted to speak their language, even if we were butchering the pronunciations and accent. So, but we tried our best. Do you have anything?
There were a few instances where you'd get in a car and then speak Marathi, and then they'd only think you spoke Marathi and would not speak any English, and we were just confused the entire car ride, but it happens.
But we just let them go.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just let them go.
But yeah, so the pictures that I have on this, the top left. No, you're good. The top left is a Nazarene church that we went to. And we did an equipping class there with our host missionary. So he used Acts 22, 1 through 16, actually, to share, to be an example of how you share your testimony and how Paul was before Christ, his interaction with God, that encounter, and then post encountering God. And so, like Dave talked about, of like sharing your testimony is very important. And so we were teaching the people there that it's very important to understand why they believe in God and where the areas of their life have been changed by him. And so Acts 22, 1 through 16 was a huge piece that we used to an example of like, okay, how was he before? What was that encounter like? How was he after? And how can you apply your own testimony to that? And then the bottom left is, so this was our first day in Pune. We went to, this was like the Hindu hotspot that I was talking about. It was the area of town in which like all of the Hindus live pretty much, and it was a market. It like had 1 million shops in it, and then butcher shops, all of these things. And so like they just all go there and then they leave. And then this idol was in there, and this is like the big idol that you see everywhere, the elephant. What is the name of it?
The name is Ganesha.
Ganesha, yeah. Sorry, I'm blanking on things. I swear I went, guys, I promise. So, yeah, that's Ganesha, and so they would literally, like, they would be shopping, and then they would walk up, take off their shoes, bow for a second, walk in, and then they would just, like, it was like a very quick, like, I'm just in, did my deed, and I'm out. So it was very interesting to see that all the time. And then on the streets, they just had them. Like in our neighborhood that we lived in, there was an idol they always had them in plexiglass boxes, which was really interesting because like they would just unlock it at a certain time of day, or it was like a fence was around it and they would unlock it at a certain time of day. And so it was always very interesting to just be walking to get groceries and you just see people, you just see a big idol. So that was very interesting. And very sad, just to see the brokenness in India, Pune specifically. But it definitely was a reminder every day of why we were there. So even whenever we were not having the best day, it was just a reminder of why we're there and why we're sharing with these people. And so that was helpful to get me going at least. But yeah. Okay, next slide, Sharon. Okay, so day to day. We tried to make our day as normal as we possibly could on the other side of the world. It wasn't too horrible. We found coffee shops that we loved. The one on the picture of that one is Blue Takai. really good coffee, and yeah, brought mom back some beans and she liked them. And so that was really good coffee, and that we would sit in there. We met with a couple people in there. A lot of the hosts, like the other missionaries that were in Pune, like we ran into them in there, which was really bizarre to be on the other side of the world, having like met people like a couple times that are like living there to be missionaries, and then you walk into a coffee shop and you're like, hey, what's up? Because there's so many people. There's millions of people in this city. So that was really interesting. But yeah, we would try to do our quiet time in the coffee shop, try to talk to the baristas. There's a different coffee shop that we would go to a lot too, that we actually like became friends with a couple of the baristas, and we're pretty close to being able to meet with them, but their schedules just wouldn't allow it, so that was kind of disappointing, but we were able to share with them just while we were with them, so that was fun. And then the picture in the middle, that's Joggers Park, me and Anna's safe place. We would go and walk every single morning. So we would walk down from our apartment to Joggers Park, walk a couple laps. The exercise community, it was very interesting. That park, they had like open air gyms. So like there wasn't like gyms, it was just a bunch of equipment in a playground essentially, and like people would just go crazy on those. And like business casual, like they were not dressed to exercise, but they had a good time, and there was always a lot of people. So that was really nice to just go and walk around and prayer walk, meet people. It was a good area to do that. And then on the left, that's a rickshaw or an auto or a tuk-tuk, whatever you want to call it. We called them rickshaws. So that was how we got around pretty much every single day. We would just book it on Uber or Ola, and then we would be on our way. So a ride would cost about 100 rupees to 200 rupees, which is pretty much $1 to $2. So it was pretty cheap to get around, but we literally had to take rickshaws like all the time. We took Ubers too, but the first experience in a rickshaw, it's the craziest thing in the world. You're like, this is amazing. I'm going to love doing this every day. And then once you're at the end of the trip, you're like, I'm going to throw up because I'm nauseous because it's so bumpy. And so you start to just like hate them so much. And then so you have to distract yourself by just like talking to the driver the entire time, or putting your headphones in and just being like, okay, I just need to take a minute. So they were fun, and then they weren't. And then the last ride that me and Anna went on, we were like, oh, we're going to miss this. And so, yeah, it was funny how day-to-day experiences became so mundane and horrible, and then it was like, oh, I'm going to leave, and then you start to love them again. But I think that's kind of how it is all the time, but anywhere you are. Anything? Okay, next slide. Okay, so we're going to go to the ministries that we worked in. And so Boys Brigade was the friend Reuben that I talked about, that was the most British American Indian man I've ever met. He was in charge of Boys Brigade, and so Boys Brigade is like an international youth organization with Christian values that started in Scotland. And so they kind of teach them, like it's all like military kids, and so their parents or grandparents or someone in their family is either involved in the military or like was. And so they kind of do like drill for them. So they'll dress up in like uniforms and stuff on certain nights. They will do like PT, which we joined them for PT. Do not suggest doing physical activity in a new place with higher elevation with children, because you will not be able to keep up with them at all. I thought I was going to die quickly. So, but yeah, so we hung out with them a lot. We went every Thursday from 4 to 7 is what we did with them. We started out doing a lot more often with them, and then just time constraints started to pull us down, so we had to like cut back a little bit. But we made a lot of good friends in this. We shared with a lot of the kids. And when I say kids, I mean like anywhere from like 5
Yeah.
to 18. So it was quite a big range of kids. So yeah, we taught them how to play basketball, and they did competitions and stuff. And then we went on a huge trek with them one day, and it was a Saturday. We literally left at 5 a.m. And we didn't get back until 5 p.m. And so it was a long day, but it was a very good day. The Lord was working in those kids' hearts for sure. On the far right picture, that's Haipu. She was reading Genesis. just on her own. So we had our pastor's son started to join Boys Brigade kind of towards the end of our trip. And so he like had a Bible and he just gave it to her and she started reading it. And so she had a lot of questions about, her biggest question was, why do bad things happen to good people if it's a good God? And so that was really a big point that we went through with her to try to, so we were like, just read Genesis, just see like that it was not God that was the problem, but it was us and sin. And so it was hard to differentiate that, 'cause she was like, I don't understand sin. And we're like, it stinks, that's all we know. And we did it. So it's just hard to talk to a younger kid that's been through so much, that they've seen a lot. And so, but she was really sweet. Yeah, love haiku. But so we were able to share, everyone was able to share on that trek day. So Britt was over in the corner. All the kids were like sitting around him. It was insane. And he was like on the top of a mountain. It was quite biblical. And then Nathan shared with people on the way up. Anna shared with Haipu and Divyansha on the top. It was just really cool to see everyone was still being missional and doing what we were there for, even though we were dog tired and to the breaking point. And so, yeah, we loved these kids. I wish we would have had more time with them, but 8 weeks is not very long. So, but yeah, we did a lot of fun things with them. And it was just like, it was like a big brother, big sister type relationship with them. So that was really fun. Do you have anything?
Britt and I actually lived with the guy who runs Boys Brigade for a little bit. He has no AC, fun fact. And it's also really hot in the summer over there. So, little interesting experience. But our first full day, I woke up at 4 because jet lag's the worst. And we had PT at 5:30 in the morning, and that's when we just walk outside, and there's just all these kids who are like eager, excited about like going out and doing something hard for that day. And at the end of that PT, he ended with a little lesson about why we shouldn't be angry. And the cool thing about Boys Brigade in India is that you're allowed just to plug in Christianity with whatever you're doing. So he goes to James being quick to speak, slow to speak, quick to listen, slow to anger, that part. And he's talking about to these kids who are practicing Hinduism or Buddhism about the Bible. And that's super cool because he would do that every day. He couldn't go into their homes and proclaim the gospel all the time, but he could still have those small moments, small interactions with these kids, planting seeds to where they could ask questions on top of a mountain to the 4 Americans who they don't know about, like, why is this? Why is this? Because Reuben had been planting these seeds this entire time to where we could come in for this very small period of time and hopefully water those seeds, and God can help the growth. So it was really cool. Boys Brigade's a great experience, and it does a lot of good work overseas.
And then we did a youth night, which youth there means, 15 to 30? So it's like everybody you don't even know. You're like, oh, you're working full-time? Cool, I'm in high school. So it was really interesting to just see the mix of people. But we did like just a youth night. So we did worship, and then Britt spoke, and then we did like fellowship and snack time, chaha time, which is chai tea. But yeah, so we did this every Saturday starting like 3rd week we were there. Yeah. And we were only going to do it for 3 weeks, but we ended up doing it till the end of our trip because the pastor was just really excited about us doing it, and he wanted us to keep coming back, so we did. But that was really fun. We were able to like meet quite a few. There was a lot more guys that came than girls, but me and Anna met a girl named Roshana that we like met with her quite a bit. She knew that she was a Christian. She knew she believed it, but she didn't know why, and so we kind of navigated that with her in a couple meetings, and she was eager to learn, but just confused about why. And so she was young. She was 16, I think, so it was really fun to meet with her and talk through those things. But yeah, so it was just a little hodgepodge group of, okay, well, he can play guitar and sing. I did sing. And then Britt is a great teacher, and so he was able to bring the word every week. And then Anna is great with relational and conversation and scripture memory, and so she was able to like pull things in discussions to really make it a holistic view of the Bible, not just what passage we were in, but seeing that the Bible is able to prove itself and it's inerrant and infallible. So that was really cool. But
Cool thing for us is all the guys that we got to meet at this event, we eventually plugged into a Bible study. Both that we led, either it was a men's Bible study or a teen Bible study. But thanks to this event, we got to meet so many people that we could plug them in to help them find community. So it was really cool.
yep. Yeah, Bible studies. Perfect transition. So yeah, we had 2 men's studies and then a women's study, and we did those every week. The guys started much earlier than the girls did. The pastor at the church that we went to, did they have one?
Mm-mm.
Okay, so they didn't have one, so he wanted to start one, and so he was like, perfect, young blood, go do it. And so they did, and it's still going on. So they're still chugging along with that, which is great. But yeah, so the picture on the left, that is me and Anna meeting with Ronita, which is, she's great. We love Ronita. We were able to spend every Wednesday with her since the day that, when we got there until we left. So we were discipling her, meeting with her weekly, just teaching her things that she wanted to know. She was raised in a Catholic household. Her mom is still Catholic. And so she was just, figuring out, okay, I am doing all of these things. Why? She started telling us, she was like, yeah, I'm not doing this anymore. I just decided to quit doing this, praying the rosary and things like that. She would just pull out stuff. She's like, I don't know why I did it, and I'm done. And so the Lord was really working in her life to just help her understand why we don't do that as Christians, and that works are not going to give you anything. But yeah, so that was really sweet. We love Ronita. The story on Ronita, though, when we met her is insane. So it was the day that we went to the idol, the crazy day that we had, our first day in Pune. And we were all exhausted. We really didn't want to be there anymore. It was the worst first day ever, but that was the whole point, because it's everything's up from here. It's great. And so our host missionary was smart for that, but we did not like it. And so we were sitting in Ruben's place, and we were just calming down because we had Boys Brigade that night.
Yep.
And so it was, we had a lot going on, and we were we don't have anyone. We're not going to be able to disciple anyone. We're just going to be here and trying to find people. No one's going to talk to us, all of these things. We were just worst case scenario was just hitting us so hard. And so we were fine, guys, what should we do? Let's pray about it. And let's see what happens then. And so we prayed that we would have opportunity and that we would have people to disciple and that we would meet friends. And all of those things happened throughout our trip. But literally 2 minutes after we were done praying, Ronita walked through the door. And so it was just really cool because through Ronita, we were able to start the women's study. She hosted it at her house, and she's still doing it now. And so it was just really cool that was such a big answered prayer. But yeah, so me and Anna love Veronica, and we're still in contact with her, and it's great. And so the far right picture is the first Bible study I think that we had, or the second one technically. The first one was just with Veronica, me, Anna, and then a lady named Christine. We were just testing the waters of what to do, and then so many people showed up, so that was really sweet, and it's really fun. There was fellowship. A lot of the women in India talked so much about they had a church and they had people to go to church with, but they didn't have community, so they didn't really spend time with each other outside of that. And so they didn't have people to, iron sharpens iron, so they didn't have that really throughout their week. They would just go to work and then be done. And a lot of people in India work night shift because they work American hours, and it's 10.5 hours difference. So Ronita would start work at 7 p.m. and not be done until the morning. And so a lot of people did that, and that kind of cut out their ability to hang out with people. But we wanted to start the Bible study so that the women had a group to go to confide in, to get in the Word with, and just help one another to know the Lord better. And so that was really sweet that we were able to kind of start that a little bit. But yeah, praying that the Lord will continue to grow that group and that Ronita will continue to become a stronger leader for that group. But it was really fun. I loved it. And yeah, the Lord was sovereign in those areas for sure. Bible study?
Yeah. So Britt and I led 2 Bible studies, a teenager Bible study on Wednesdays, and then a men's Bible study on Fridays, which was really cool. Our first teen Bible study, only one kid showed up. It was the pastor's kid. And then from there, it just grew. We would play soccer on Sundays with a bunch of people from the church and just whoever showed up. So we'd meet a lot of kids there. We would bring them to the Bible study. So it was really fruitful. We were going through 1 John, talking about living in the light, not loving the world, pursuing God. And it was really cool because throughout the week, we would see some of the kids, and I'd be like, hey, what do you remember about 1 John? And they would be able to remember it. They were very intently listening. I lead a teenager Bible study in Columbia, and those kids, they don't listen as intently, but it was really cool how the kids overseas were just like so hungry for the word and like wanting to be there continually week after week and just trying to understand the Bible and pursue God. And then our men's Bible study was pretty cool. We went over a little bit of Acts 22. We went how to share the gospel, how to share our testimony, because in India, we can't be there forever. They are there. They live there. They know the people. So we want to equip them to where they can go out and pursue their faith and live out their faith and pursue others and share their faith with them, be able to share their testimony. So it was really cool and really fruitful.
Yeah, and then home visits. This was one of my favorite things that we did. You just got to go into the family's homes, eat food. That was really good. I missed that food, I can't lie. And then just kind of hang out. So our host missionary, for me and Anna specifically, he like loaded us up with contacts of people that they had met once or twice, like offhand. And they wanted to just kind of do follow-ups with them to see how they were doing. And then share with them again and just kind of like, plant those seeds continuously. And so we went to like our friend's house, the first on the left, that's him and his parents' house. And he, like, they're very, very devout Christians, and they're just a really sweet family. Like a big thing that they would do is like sing worship before they would like eat and hang out. So that was really sweet. Like you'd show up, they'd pray, and then we'd worship, and then we'd eat, and then we'd worship after. So it was just cool to see how they would just put everything to worship together in every area of their life. Convicting, but it was really, really sweet to see people doing that. And then on the far right, that's Ruben's house. We were just hanging out with his parents and his brother. So just kind of getting to know, like, why is Ruben the way he is? Makes sense, his parents. So that was really fun to just be able to, like, see generational differences, too, of just how India was back then and how it is now and how the young people are now. And it's just really cool to see how it's changed. And then in the middle, that was whenever we went to a village towards the end of our trip. So we were doing like an equipping session with them, which I don't think we really knew what we were doing going into it. Jeff didn't tell us. But we had a lot of fun with them. We stayed there for like, I mean, it was like
A long time.
half an hour after midnight probably until we left. But we were able to spend time with them. So that was like, you only see 2 people in there, but it's like, it was this entire family. Like it was, so their grandfather was the one that kind of shared with them and kind of raised up them to believe in Jesus. And then he passed, and so they keep meeting up together to like worship and read and just spend time together. So it was, I don't know, it was a grandma to the children, so like aunts and uncles, and then the children. So it was like 3 generations of this family, and they all like live right next to each other, which was really fun. But we did equipping with them, so we shared the gospel. I should have put the picture, I didn't even think of this, but the way that we shared the gospel, it's a cross, and it's just creation, the fall, sacrifices, like trying to get back to God, and then Jesus' birth, his death, his resurrection, and then like restored relationship with God. And so it was like a cross that you just went through, and it was really simple. And so we taught them how to use that to share the gospel with other people. And so I think articulation of the gospel overseas, especially like in Pune, was they like didn't know how to articulate it very well, but they believed it. So I'm like, we just really were honing in on like, okay, you believe it, so like we're going to teach you how to share with people, and then they would go out and share. So they're really eager to do that. And so we taught them that, and then what else did we do? And then we did worship with them. They did bhajans, which are like, they're Hindi. They were in Hindi, but they like translate it into English, and then they also make it Christian. It was like Hindu and Hindi, and then it was English and Christian. And so like they like, it's just songs. It's like old ancient songs that they like have changed to be for their religion, which was really cool. They played instruments that I had never seen in my life. They were really cool, but it was really sweet that they wanted us to be there with them and do that. So it was just really encouraging to be around all of the fellow believers that we have. But yeah, home visits were definitely my favorite. We did a lot in the earlier weeks and then kind of like dialed it down a little bit.